Welcome back to the Upscale podcast where we talk everything steel pan. I'm your host, Norel Christopher, and my co-host,
Jawan Henry.
And today we have some special guests on the show today. We have Benna Steel Orchestra, we have Mr. Malik.
Greetings everybody.
And Miss Maurisha.
Good day, everybody.
Yes, and Malik is a ranger. He was a ranger for Panache in the 2023 Panorama this year. He did an excellent job. Panache came second runner-up. His first year arranging for Steep. I remember Malik when he was shot and running around.
Hey, bro. He said his first year arranging for Steep.
I'm sorry. First year arranging for Panorama.
Alright.
First year arranging for Panorama.
Wait, have you ever arranged for
School Panorama? No.
Okay.
I've had the opportunity.
Alright. Okay. I remember Malik when he was young and running around, you know what I mean? He was always, I guess, 2 years below me. But other than that, Malik has always been passionate for it. So it's always good to see a brother, stepping up and taking the thing. You know what I mean? So, excellent job this year. You can just tell us how it felt, how you feel about this year, how it went, your first time. Tell me.
Well, for my first time, I think the overall experience, I guess, in terms of preparation, there was a lot of, I guess, getting used to a lot of the newer players, being able to create an environment that's welcoming to all of them.
Right.
Also, just like making them feel comfortable and also making them enjoy what they're playing.
Right.
You have to, like, for me, what it was, like, looking back at videos after each practice, seeing how a player reacts with a certain part. Sometimes it's like, okay, if this is where their energy, if this time in the night is where the energy usually comes, but this part, they just look like they're just completely out of it, then sometimes I decide, like, I may need to revisit it.
Right.
Or even aside from that, there will be other people that may come and say to me, I feel like this may not be coming through the way that you may have intended it. Doesn't mean that it's bad, but maybe you might want to revisit it, just take my time and go into the season. Even as far as Panorama Night, I think the team that I had behind me allowed the overall feeling to not, just to take away a lot of the pressure.
Right.
Because not only was I arranging, but I typically have, I guess, a logistic background when it comes to dealing with Panache whenever we go out. But overall, I enjoyed the time, I had fun, I'm thankful for the opportunity, and I'm hoping to continue.
Excellent. And we have Maurisha Potter, who is the captain of Panache Steel Orchestra. Maurisha, how was it for you?
Hey, I want to say something right
Yeah.
Not only Maurisha, the captain, but Maurisha is also the what? What were you this season?
I was also the driller.
That is it. So Maurisha, tell me how it was in terms of like drilling. As Malik mentioned, you had some newer players, so it must be a little difficult. You have the newer ones. Tell us, break it down.
Yeah, I must say, every year is different. Every year you get a different set of players. What I noticed this year, we had a lot of players that came from our Pan Academy, or School of Pan, as we all know it. So we had a lot of, as we refer to, green players, a lot of beginners. Some never played Pan before, some only played for maybe like 2-3 months. And it's funny because in the first week or two, just teaching them the verse and chorus, we're like, if they can't handle the verse and chorus, what's going to happen for the rest of the arrangement, knowing that we have a particular time frame. So I always have to keep telling them, look, guys, we have to push. Some of them will get worried saying, no, Maurisha, I can't play this, or how we could do this. And it's a lot of encouraging this year. This year, compared to the other years, there's a lot of encouragement I had to do, as well, with a lot of the players, I must say, in each section. Some went as far as to feel like they just can't make it. I have to tell them, look, guys, no, it's okay. Once you come to practice, you're going to be okay. Nice. So I've seen a lot of dedication from the beginners, especially because we had some that we were wondering if they'd even make it to those who actually made it on stage. And as I would have said in previous interviews as well, if you saw the progress between when they started to the end, you would not believe it's the same people. I promise you would not believe it's the same people. Right. So being a driller this year, that made me very proud. As I said, it's more work this time because compared to other years where we had a little bit more seasoned players, so it's kind of easy to work with them. Well, sometimes. Some of them have bad habits or old habits, but I always tell persons that I like dealing with, fresh people because they learn, right? So this year was a bit hard, I must say. It was difficult, especially being captain at the same time, because this would be my first year being captain while being a driller. So it was I tell you, a ton of, like, words can't explain the amount of work I've did since May right down. Like, it was insane, but I'm proud of them, man. It was a good season.
Definitely, and I think all your fans would say that we all, even myself and Jawan, we all proud of you.
And I am so happy. You said something in the beginning. You said that most of your players came out of the school of Panorama.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important that we have the youths being incorporated into the band, because they are potentially the next.
Yes.
In the future.
The future, and I think that's a good stuff. And they did well. They did well on the night.
Excellent, actually, excellent. So, guys, we're gonna dissect your song. Malik, you're gonna be the guy to lead us through. You know what I mean? So we're gonna dissect it. We're gonna start it about right now, and let's get into it. So I think that's the introduction.
Yeah, that would have been an introduction.
So Malik, tell me what you're thinking about when you put that together.
Well, I think this was the second or third iteration of the introduction. But because of when I ended up putting it on and having to have a lot of green players, sometimes the music doesn't take to them unless it's been a while that they've been practicing it. And with 2 days before the competition, they didn't want to try to do too much. But regardless, what I tried to implement was full-on lines, or like base everything off of parts of the song itself and try not to stray away from that. I tend to have a difficulty to, in terms of outlaying what something is supposed to be. And it may take a few listens sometimes, but with this, I decided to go a completely different route. The opening line is literally a line going into the chorus. And then the phrase, the drops that come right after that opening line, are based off of Benna in she ways, because it's dun da dun da dun da dun da dun da. Right? There is a part as well that when we get to even speaking about the flat tune and in terms of how the horns interact with it, there are lines where they're based chromatically, and what I decided to do with it in the intro was place it, instead of placing it in the background pan, I place it in the melody. And instead of leaving it at one specific range, each one was different, and I even included other pans to kind of make it feel a lot fuller. And then coming out of the introduction, I decided to keep the opening part of the verse happening on top, and the pre-chorus happening within the low section. And the chords that came up from that, I can't even tell you where the chords came from. But that was the idea going into, and even the drops coming out of the introduction was a variation of bum bum dun. That's something that you'll hear throughout different parts of the song. It's a very prominent part of the original as well. So that's basically that is most of what I try to implicate with the song itself, with the intro itself.
Right, and you mentioned something very important. You said not to stray. Right, and I find that sometimes a lot of arrangers sometimes they stray, and when you stray, it's hard to find back. Right, so as a listener who I never hear Benna, so then now I try to listen and I say, what song remember again? And then I catch on afterwards.
And let me tell you, I don't know Benna, right? but you know, after hearing this and stuff, you hear something that is repeating, that you hear throughout the song, and then you're like, okay, this is a motive.
Yeah.
So even if you don't know the song,
Yeah,
you can still follow what is going on.
Definitely. Alright, so we're gonna continue. Experience a little bit technical because, but that's basically the tune. So tell us about it.
Well, within the verse, there's quite a bit happening, and not just in the high pans itself, but because of what's said because of the statement that's being made in the song. There's a lot of interaction between what the singer would have been singing as well as with the horns, right? With the horn lines happen to be a little bit longer than the actual melodic phrase itself,
Right.
which means the melodic phrase can stand out a lot more when you decide to use it later on in the song. Because what's happening, you hear bum bum bidum bum 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 din dum bum bum bum, and it's just the one line that you hear throughout the first part of the verse. But as the verse progresses, you're going to hear different lines, right? So it's boom bum bidum bum 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 din dum bum bum bum, and then bum 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 bidum do dun 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 do dun 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 do bum 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 bum. So although there's one thing in the verse that stands out, you may think that is just the one thing, but there's a lot to pull from it. And when the song was brought to me and I listened to it, originally the song was brought as an idea by Maurisha to actually be one of the stateside songs, but it was just a lot, and I found that I could do. In terms of the progression, when trying to develop how the chords moved, now, you like to add a bit of color to certain things, but with certain types of music, if you add too much color, or if you add a certain type of color, it strays away from what the song is trying to show you. There are certain parts where in the song itself it probably feel as though there are two chords, but it would sound easier if you kind of spaced out what's happening in the chord band. So instead of the two chord parts that you're hearing in the song itself, you add in the extra movements to, let's say you end up playing 4 chords instead of the 2. So you hear exactly how, not only how the song was moving, but how the melody might be moving, because the chords would then end up adding to the melody, adding to the harmony in the double tenors as well. In the chorus, there's a lot. It's really a lot. In the chorus, there are really two phrases in the chorus that I loved, that I used a lot. Well, I must say a lot, but I use a fair amount. And as well, close to the end of the chorus, we have get on bad, get on bad, get on bad. Those things, those parts, I feel like were very. They left room to be noticed, if that makes sense.
Right.
So, when creating the flat tune itself, I had to try to make the space noticeable enough that people understand that, okay, this is something that actually is easy to remember. So, when I hear it later down in the song, I already know that, okay, I remember hearing this in the flat tune, so it makes sense. So that's the kind of idea I was going for with the flat tune majority.
I have two things. The first one, I have gig later and I need a singer. Are you available?
I was just gonna say,
But the orchestration for of course I'm not a singer like you. But that part that came out real clean. What were you thinking about when you what pants to give that to? Or
Well, I gave that to everybody that I could give it to. With that part itself, the first way to play it that came to my mind was one how you sang it just now. So baby da da dum. Another way was bam da da dum. But I started to think about the players that I had, and I had to rework it. But in terms of what they ended up playing, I simplified it so that you can still hear what it's supposed to be, which is just bim ba da dum, and you hear it in the cellos, you hear it in the running seconds, you hear it in the double tenors, and I think a few of the strumming seconds ended up playing it as well, if my memory serves me correctly.
yeah, I think that part came out really clear.
Yeah,
I remember just hearing this just now. I was like, "Jeez!" I remember how the original song sounds like. I was like, "Boy, that sounds exactly like that." And I think that's a very good orchestration. But we're gonna continue dissecting, you know.
So that would have been the variation. The transition, getting into it, like I mentioned, the same concept that I used for the intro, trying to ensure that as much as possible, the lines that are heard are lines that you would hear if you were listening to Benna Benna.
Right.
As well with the opening phrase of the first variation, boom 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 boom. Then you have right. That is based off of the same line that you were speaking about earlier. So I know for some people it may have just went past, but but I feel like that line took us a while just to get the players together with it, because like we mentioned, you know, having to have green players and incorporating that kind of busy movement, especially so early. It was also kind of a tactic to kind of wean out and see how far some of the players are willing to go from an early stage. But going into the variation itself, what I try to do, I try to allow the melody to complement what's happening with the middle pan, me and the cello and the running second. So although they may not be playing the same notes, the phrases that they would be playing would complement what's happening, as well as even leaving space so that you can hear that, okay, this was very clear in the flat tune for me, and I see now that this space is here with the high pans. The high pans not playing here, but I can hear it in the low section. I can hear it in the middle pans, my bad, right? And just trying to find a way to make the parts remain clear, so that it feels more of a full-on second verse, opposed to us just going on stage and writing music. What I did with the pre-chorus, I was slightly different to how the pre-chorus would have felt in the flat tune. But let's just say it's 4 rounds of the phrase, or the phrase for the pre-chorus being bum 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 beat and do. What I did for the first 2 rounds, I took it and made a call and response section between the high bands and the middle bands. But the response was also something that accentuated the actual phrase from that part. It was like dun 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 dee dun da do ba bam bam bum bam bo dum bo da dun 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 dee dum ba do ba dun 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 do dum ba ba bum ba bum. So trying to fit it in, and try to, like I said, the main thing is to try as much as possible not to stray. And the first variation coming out of the flat tune is one of the most important areas, because although your flat tune might make a statement, if your first variation already starts to stray, the listener can already start to forget the song, especially if they don't originally know the song.
Yeah.
Right.
Alright, bro. We're gonna continue.
So that would have been the second chorus. What's happening there? Like similar to what I mentioned for the second verse, I decided to push a lot more with having the high pans. The high pan phrases actually complement the low section, so that you can bring out the actual chorus itself. So there'll be parts so you actually hear them play the first part of the phrase, and then they cut the line early, so that you can hear it happening in the low section.
Okay.
And then they come back in, but when they come back in, they might come back in on, let's say, a second part of the line, and then the high pans would build off of that line, while the low pans, or while the middle pans are continuing the chorus on lead.
Okay.
So the second half of the line would basically be something that is still being played by the midsection, but you can hear, okay, this is very prominent, but then I can still, there will be parts underneath that might still float away. Parts underneath that even if you were to hear the flat tune, it probably wouldn't have resonated as well.
Yeah.
But it's happening.
It's happening, yeah.
So I try to bring that out as much as possible. Going into, I guess, what is it? There's a section where the middle band's actually playing the phrase in its entirety on, I think it was two different notes, while the high bands focus on playing that same phrase but on one note, but a completely different note to what they were doing. So it kind of, I guess, helped to emphasize that phrase itself for when I wanted to use it. So what I tried to do as much as possible with this entire first variation was, okay, I already showed you some of the things within the flat tune, and now within the first variation, I'm going to show you what I want to use going forward.
Okay.
Although a lot of it might still not be as, as strong in the sense that, you're not familiar with it. But I'm bringing out the phrases now in different ways, so okay, this is something rhythmic or this is something melodic. If I decide to change the notes melodically, it still works. If I decide to, instead of playing a phrase between the original, let's say 3-4 notes, I can do it on one note, or I can do it on a chord. So you already know, okay, this is a phrase from this line, or this is a phrase from that line.
Okay. We will continue, guys. That syncopation that the background is doing and stuff. How hard was that to drill, Maurisha?
Listen. Listen to me. Okay, so can you imagine? It's 2 rows now. But that took me a while because some were coming in too early, some were coming on the beat, some would not be playing at all, some would look confused, some playing the wrong note. So it really took a while to really drill that properly for how he wants it to come across. And one of the things I try to tell him, like, okay, Malik is the arranger, but I have to make sure that y'all executing the way he envisions, that he wants to be executed. The bass section, I'm sure if any bass players watch this, it's okay. The bass section had me up to here. Because I know what the bass is, but they were not rolling properly. Then the man just brr, brr. I'm just like, guys, y'all have to roll like y'all. So sometimes when I'm drilling the band, I have to be doing this. Like, guys, I want to like feel it. I want to feel the grumble in my stomach, right? And I realized unless I don't do it in front of the band, it's just like, okay, let's just fling our hands anywhere. So it took a while to really drill that properly. And that was a part that's really, I think that really needs to come up, because I was trying to tell them, guys, when you introduce a new section, you have to make sure that it's powerful. You can't just say, okay, blah, blah, oh, new section, brah. So it took a while. It took a while.
I can imagine, and tell you, this last one really decent, my brother. Time.
So this is the jam. So within this first part of the jam, I I was really trying to bring out as much as possible. Benna in she waist. So what you'll find, there'll be parts where the middle section is actually forcing that out, while the high pans are probably playing the last two hits in that phrase, or the last 3 hits in that phrase, to kind of add a little bit so that they hear, okay, okay, so the low section just did that. And what I did as well with the basses, because in the original, there was a lot of walking bass, right? So I tried to push as much as possible to not have the bass too busy, have it walking, and the only thing outside of that they would have brought in was the Benna inchy waist, but in different ways. So sometimes they would use dun da dun da dum, another time they may use dun da dun da dun, and it changed throughout the pieces, throughout the jam itself. Even the same part that you mentioned again earlier, where bim ba da dum, I had the high pans played, but played a little differently. So it's bada be dun dibada boom bim bibada boom bam babada boom. So when you hear it, like, okay, kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes it may not hit as well, but what happened? The first 2 were played by the high pans, and the last one was played by the low pans.
Okay.
So even going into it, there's bim bam bam budam bam badam bum. So I did baby do be ba ba do ba de be bo be ba ba da ba baby do be ba ba do ba baby do be ba ba da ba. Right?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of little things that I had to sit down and think about it. There's some things that I enjoyed hearing. There's some things that may not have been, for some, wouldn't have been as practical for competition purposes. But I feel like this jam, to me, screamed Benna. It screamed a lot of what already passed in the song. And this is just the first half of the jam too.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, a really important question. I'm taking notes, right? How do you construct triple lines? That's a very prominent question among many people. Many people ask me, how is it that you construct triple lines? I want to hear how you do it.
Okay. Well, when it came, can I speak on the jam itself? The jam?
Yeah, you can.
For the jam, what I did, I tend to create, I guess, like a backbone first, where it's a lot simpler than what you end up hearing in the finished product.
Okay.
But I would create the simpler version of it and then listen to it and realize that there's a bit of space that could be filled.
Okay.
Even with this jam itself, I remember when doing it, the first night when the jam came, cards go down, boy, bass. There was a bass line, but not the official one. There was a cello line that it felt Benna, but it didn't feel Malik.
Okay.
Right? And being able to have players in the band that know how to come and say, okay, we're accustomed to playing music for you, but this part just doesn't feel like something that would just naturally come out from your writing. So took a little bit, tried to not stray far from it because I know that this is a chord progression that I want to stick to. It took me a while to even figure out why I wasn't liking it or why I wasn't finding a way to change it. I couldn't figure out what the problem was. And then I realized, I think I was at the Panyard sitting down trying to write, I think after about an hour or two, I said, oh, I don't like it because I want a major jam and this sounds too dark. It felt, it was based off of a 251 and it felt like, well, I ended up going to the 6 in my voicing for one round and then to the 1 for the next round.
Okay.
But it was feeling, the 6 was feeling like the 1.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a while to realize that this is why I didn't like what I was trying to create. Now, with it even like changed the feeling of where the beat would fall with how I was writing the cello line. When the cello line came up, there was, like I mentioned, there was a lot of space, and sometimes I would just have it on a loop, have a pan set up,
Over and over and over.
and I would just leave it to play. I would just leave the cards to play, and just play a bunch of foolishness until the foolishness starts to make sense. So even specifically with this, Maurisha was actually at the panyard while I did this, and she was laughing.
She's laughing?
She was laughing. No, like,
Malik?
if you saw it, right? If you saw me, I feel like you would have laughed. Because what I tried to do was I tried to embody a performance. Right? So when I was trying to come up with it, I was behind the cello and I was performing, trying to come up with it. So I was flinging my hand. I was putting my hand in different places, but it looked like I was playing something that made sense.
You jamming with it?
Yeah, so until I started to find, until I started to hear something that I was like, yeah, this can work. So I stopped it, and I tried to go back to the pan with the loop off, and try to hold on to it, right? So I tried to I keep playing the one part without the loop until it just sticks in my brain. Then I put back on the loop, continue trying to perform to write. So just thinking about how the players would dance or enjoy themselves while they're playing it,
Right.
and giving them a difficult time.
What kind of glues you use, by the way?
What type?
A glue you used. You said to stick to your brain. So I was asking what kind of glue you know. Whatever, we got to.
So even with this part, I think there's an area in the song, I think it's in the band chorus actually, where it's just an octave that he's using from the lower A to the higher A, right? So what I did towards the end of the jam, I based that within the high pans, and with the same phrase that the high pans are using, I had a lot of rolls going on the same phrase within the low pans to add a little color to it. So the cello stopped playing what they were playing before, basses stopped playing what they were playing before, just so that I could have them bring out that phrase itself, but to allow the phrase to sound a little different. So it's dun 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 dun, but the low section is going boom 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 dun 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 dun. Obviously it changed towards the end of the phrase itself, but just to kind of create something that sounded complete. But that was the idea going into it. Even with the chorus line with the 4-note walk down is typically bim 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 bum bim bum bum. Or what we did there in the jam was bim bim ba ba da bim bim ba da ba da ba ba da. Just that add a little thing, add something a little bit different
Yeah.
to it.
And that sounded beautiful. One thing I like too, there was a triple guitars bass, if I'm not right. They do like this kind of chromatic thing. Again, I can't sing, guys. Well, you know, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, right? They did this kind of chromatic thing coming towards the end, what we were just listening to just now. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, the same. That's
Yeah, that you were singing, yeah.
Yeah.
That just sounds really impactful to me. Like we going somewhere, you know what I'm saying? So I like that.
Thank you.
But we gonna continue it.
Transition, going into the minor drum itself. I found some chords that I liked, and I created a section off of the chords. And I realized, and even with the assistance of some of the other members, it felt like there was something that needed to go before it. So where we have the soft part that's happening, like right at the beginning of that section where the cello is doing bim dun dun da 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 dum dun dun da 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 dum. That's a line from the chorus. Ba-da-ba-dim bum bum ba dun dun da da dun dun da dun dun. Right? But that section wasn't there originally. And I think I ended up just continuing the writing process for the rest of the transition, and I ended up having to go back to it. I think it might have been like 2 days after teaching the section that it finally clicked. It's something simple, something that I ended up liking. I think us trying to change the one, because at that point in time I didn't know what key I wanted to go to. I had an idea for how I wanted to get to a specific key, but then when I was trying to do it, the transistor wasn't working out.
Alright, so what we're gonna do now, we're gonna listen and we'll go down to the end, because I remember you guys say you have something to do. So we'll listen to the end, then we're gonna go through, right? Alright. Just now, I swear I had a skit in my mouth. So drive us through that from the minor go down. What happened? What you did there?
Well, with the minor, normally when I get to the minor, it's one of the easiest things for me to write. I
Hey,
don't.
Maurisha saying no, so.
No, it's not that.
Oh,
She can't say no.
Can't say no.
Wait, sorry, so I'm doing like some
That's,
moonwalks where he was writing the minor.
That's a man's sweet spot, boy.
Oh.
He likes minors, yeah.
Whenever I get to the minor sections, it's typically I don't even think it took a while. I don't even think it took any time to do this section at all. I came up with the chords. Well, I came up with the cello line first. Alright.
Lines.
And I think this was at the end. I came up with it even before I came up with the chords and everything. And then after I put down the cello line, just found a set of chords to fit, found a bass line to fit. That left a lot of space, but still space so that it would complement other things, but still kind of bouncy. Right, so it kept the groove.
Alright, this line. Now correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like it was like this lick that triple play that was really sweet. Cry Me a River.
Yeah,
was it that?
Yeah, it was a
Okay.
River. Like towards the end of the minor itself.
Yeah, well that sounded really nice.
Yeah, so it came in.
For all
right
you jazz
after.
guys out there.
Yeah, so we got to that section and I didn't know where to go after. Oh, a lie. I knew where to go after. It was just making it feel like we were going somewhere. Because the end of that section didn't feel like we were going anywhere yet. But I ended up creating another set of chords that made the transition from the minor into the relative major feel a lot more natural. So we went from D minor into F major, and what I did, I tried to utilize a lot of familiar chord progressions that you would typically even associate with this type of music from what we're accustomed to even from older songs. And I utilized the jam from the song itself is what we hear going on in that outro jam, which is dun dun dun, dun bum bum. Right, so I did that starting with the cellos, and then we ended up switching it over to the high pans while the high pans played it slightly different. So you hear ba dum bum ba dum bum ba dum bum ba dum bum be, right, and it took us to, I guess, a pivotal point, somewhere where it's just a lot of energy. Everybody's looking forward to what's happening next or what's coming next. And to end off that section, there's a 1 note, 2 note passage here happening with the high pans where it's the second part of the line from the chorus as well as Benna in Shoeways. So you hear bam badam ba bam bam badam ba bam bam badam ba da Benna in Shoeways coming from the chorus and the same mixture. But underneath now, I ended up I split some of the melody seconds to play these lines with the cellos. Something that happened earlier on and is also a part of the song, where bam ba-do-be-dam ba-dum ba-de-bam bam bum ba-de-dam bim ba-dam bum. So the cellos are doing that underneath while the high pans are doing bam ba-dam ba-dam bam ba-dam ba-dam bam ba-dam, and a slight, couple changes where bam ba-do-be-dam ba-dum bam ba-dum bam ba-dum bam ba-dum bam, and then from that into the last outro part, the outro passage that you hear, where it's a lot of different chord changes going on, and coming up with that, it was literally just pulling one note from the previous chord and create another chord based off of that note.
Okay.
So coming into that area, I think I just went behind the piano for like about 2 minutes and was just moving around with the notes in them. I realized this can sound nasty to certain people, but it can also sound like it makes sense. and then just to create the voicing to fit that passage and take us outside. So all you hear happening is just full on complements of the verse, the pre-chorus, the chorus, the end of the chorus, the get on bad, and going into the ending drops, wherein we have Benna in she waist happening, like just but still with a lot of color.
Yeah.
I just try to create everything before with I guess the harmony to fit the type of music, and then kind of free up towards the end.
Alright, bro. And thank you for this dissection of the song that you guys would have done this year and came second runner up. A job well done, my brother. A job well done, Maurisha, my sister. And I just want to encourage you guys to just keep doing what you're doing.
Keep pushing.
Keep pushing.
Thank
Y'all
you,
did
guys.
well. Y'all did really well.
Thank you.
And in wrapping up, I want to say, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and leave a comment.